Okay, so I assume if you clicked on this video, you are a non-native English speaker, just like me, and you want to start a YouTube channel, and you want to know, oh, maybe I should do it, but I'm worried that maybe people will laugh at me, or maybe I would do very badly, etc. And I'm here to present you my case, or at least the part of the reason I'm doing it, and part of the reason I think you should do it, even if you're not a native English speaker. First of all, because the reason you're worried about that is not because you are non-native, but because you think you are not good. You are not as good as a native speaker. That's why it matters for you. But I would say it's a perfect opportunity for practice, a perfect opportunity to speak and finally like get over the bump and finally start being better at it. I met someone recently, for example, who understood French perfectly, which is my native language, and so he understood, for example, he could follow the news. He was subscribed to a lot of accounts like this. So that's quite impressive. Honestly, he's better than me. That, for example, the language I'm learning right now is Polish, and I still struggle a lot to read, to speak extra. But if I wanted to, for example, improve my speaking, and that's what I'm planning to do in the coming weeks, coming months, is to finally have more opportunity to speak. And what better way to have that than a YouTube channel? Because if you, for language learning, I'm sure you have done it since you are watching this video in English. So I assume you have pretty good understanding of English, but you are pretty used to consuming content in English, and you know that you had to learn English because you had to, not because it was in school or something like this, partially. Maybe it got you the foot in the door, but sometimes we often don't have the choice to learn English because there is so much content out there that is in English. Most of the internet is in English, and except if you are part of the few languages that are very much present on the internet, such as French, Spanish, and Chinese. I think that's the three main ones where you could spend your whole life just using this language. You still get so many books that are not translated into other languages other than English, and that's really a big value. So you know that if you don't have the choice, you're gonna learn the language. So you learn how to speak, how to read, how to listen. But it's the same thing for speaking. If you have you finally have an opportunity into the YouTube channel. So I think that's the most important part. If you're a non-native speaker, just the opportunity to finally practice speaking and review your mistake, because that's the second point. So, you have an opportunity to just open your camera and yap your thought at the camera, but you also have the opportunity to review it yourself. So, hearing myself talk in English for the first time was very intimidating, but at least it showed me where was my level when it comes to my accent. For example, I realized that I have sometimes a few sounds or a few hesitation that are still in French, even though I even barely use French anymore. But I still have some of the, how do you say that? Not accent, some of the mannerism that are from France, not from French. And I also noticed that I do some of those mistakes like this, but I do them in French as well, so I'm not very surprised. So yeah, the opportunity to practice, but also review your mistakes. Obviously, you would say, oh, but I can do that without posting on YouTube. I could just record myself, talk about my day, journaling, etc., and I don't have to post it on YouTube. Why would I need to post it on YouTube and being subject to ridicule to everybody? Well, that's the third point of why you should start a YouTube channel as a non-native speaker, is that nobody really cares about your accent. And I really mean it. And not that, as long as you are understandable, as long as you are at the level where you are, people can understand you, nobody really cares. I mean, especially the natives, because they're very used to deal with people who are not from their home country, especially if they are in the US or they are in the UK, for example. They're very used to work with international people, and that's don't really speak the perfect English, but at least enough to communicate, to do business with, For example, if there are foreigners as clients, tourists, for example, or if they are just international partners, that's very, very common in a lot of corporation or a lot of social settings in general. And it really doesn't bother them. At least I don't. At least that's not what I see. If you, I would say one of the one of the biggest proof of that is, for example, personalities such as, I would say the most extreme example is Slavoj Žižek, for example, the philosopher, who I don't remember, I think he's Czech, but I don't remember exactly, but he has a very, very strong speech defect that makes it very hard to listen to him. So me personally, I often need to have subtitles when I need to watch an interview of him extra. But if him can have like a lot of opportunities, a lot of speaking, like interview, etc., a lot of content made about him, well, I'm sure your accent will be good enough, at least to get your point across, because that's really that's really the thing that matters, is what you have to say. That's the fourth point. It's like what you have to say is way, way more important than how you say it, or how exactly you sound, etc. As long as you have, like, I would say you might want to compensate. If you have an accent, you might want to compensate with like okay audio. If you have a bad accent and a very bad audio, it's gonna be very hard for people to get what you mean, for example. But if you have a okay audio, like I don't have the best equipment in the world, but at least it's easy to hear. It's good enough so that you can hear me. That's what I mean. So that will be the low bar that I will give you, basically. Instead of trying to be perfect, have a perfect accent, etc. Start practicing now, and finally and if you have good enough mic that you can listen to yourself, that people can understand what you mean, and that you can also review your mistakes so that you can improve, you don't have anything else to prove. You don't have anything else to add to that. You can just do stuff. You can just do stuff. I'd say you'll be surprised also to stress on the point about the accent that doesn't really matter. Even like very, very big personalities, like I'm thinking, for example, Elon Musk, for example, has a I forgot how you say that in English actually, but you know how he speak. It's sometimes a bit hard to follow what he says, etc. But yet he's obviously very, very worldwide known, and people listen to him speak all the time, and it's okay because he has like a lot of other credentials on the side. But you might have like focus on what you have to bring to the world. So you might have good credential, you might be for example a professional, or you might have a certain experience that you want to share. That's why you clicked on this video, because you want to share things to the world. You might be very funny, you might be very entertaining. There actually your accent might help you. I don't really know your exact situation, but think about that. Think about maybe the advantage you might have by speaking in English, even though it's not your native language. I really do believe that on the internet we need more, let's say, international view of the world. That's something that is very, very important to me. In many, many ways, the English speaking, so the UK, US, is way too much overrepresented, over-documented, and we need voices from around the world that can communicate with each other. That's why we have to use English. That's why I have to use English to speak to you. It's because if I was only sticking to French, for example, that would be very limited, and I couldn't share as much things as I want to as many people as I want. So that's why I'm speaking in English. I'm sure you have a similar reason to have bigger reach and be able to find more of your people. You might be into, for example, a niche hobby, or you might be in a situation where it just makes sense to use English as for communicating with people. So for all these reasons, I really do believe that starting a YouTube channel as a non-native English speaker is a very, very good idea. Even if you don't get many views, even if you don't get worldwide famous, I don't think your accent will be in the way. I don't think the fact that you maybe don't speak perfect English. I want that you make mistakes. Look at how many mistakes I make, honestly, or you might not have noticed, but I do make a lot of mistakes that I'm trying to improve at. But that's not the most important part. The most important part was the thing I wanted to tell you today. So let me know in the comments a bit about your story. So if you click on this video, you probably want to start a YouTube channel and you don't come from a typical English background. So I would be very interested about what's your goal, what do you want to share with the world, and etc. That would be very interesting to me. I'm not actually very interested in in likes and subscribe. Really just want to hear you guys and start a conversation. That's why I'm making those videos. I hope it has been interesting to you listening to me talk, and I will see you tomorrow.